Easy day shoes are such a staple in our running shoe rotation. They get used a lot, but which for me in 2023 have been used the most? Today we're going to dive in and find out. So now we're over a third of the way into 2023, and for me, having a marathon training block under my belt, I thought it'd be a great time to sit down and go through with you guys the 2023 released shoes that I've used the most for my easy days. I'll throw in some honorary mentions in the beginning that have rolled over from 2022 and share the sort of mileage on those, but today the focus is all about 2023 and which one has come out on top. It really has surprised me. So without further ado, we'll dive in and I'll give you the stats and figures of all of these shoes. Let's dive in and find out with the honorary mentions first. So there are three shoes that I want to highlight. I've only got two of them here with me today. The Endorphin Speeds are the ones that are missing. I've used those for 2 or 3 easy runs this year, but these two, the Saucony Endorphin Shift 3 and the Brooks Hyperion Max, this one more recently. Let's focus on this one first. This is rolled over from last year and again in the beginning of the training block. Before I move this to my walking shoe, because I love it so much, it's so comfy, it got a fair few miles in January, nothing crazy, and all of these shoes we're going to go through today pretty much have got from me and my rotation, my easy 45-minute runs done and easy hour runs done, which were mixed in with my training block. Nothing more. No other shoe in this rotation has clocked really anything more than over 7 miles in a run at one time, so these are very much my easy day, relaxed recovery shoes. The Saucony Endorphin Shift definitely is one to mention, and the Hyperion Max is something that I've gravitated towards more recently just because I'm struggling to pick up a shoe anything other than this one. And last week, coming back from a marathon training block, this is the one I went for I think 4 out of the 5 runs during that week. It is a little bit muddy at the moment, but this thing has over 300 miles. Nothing really picked up in the beginning of the training block, and throughout the training block this took everything else but the easy runs, but now I've kind of started to gravitate towards it for some of the easies. So propping things up in third place is the Saucony Guide 16. This is a shoe that came into my possession from Saucony. They sent it for the purpose of review. I think it was back end of February, early March, and so far I've done 4 runs in it, totaling 22.7 miles. So this is the least out of the 3 so far. And I'll give you a couple of reasons why I think that is the case. It's a fantastic shoe, really enjoyed it. And I love the Ride 15 from last year. Now the Guide is a supportive version of the Ride. So if you're a neutral runner, you tend to edge towards the Ride. And if you need a little bit of support, you go towards the Guide version. I'm going to be honest with you, I feel the supportive features in this shoe are very minimal. We're talking a very firm, rigid heel counter, which I've seen in plenty of neutral shoes. A little bit of firmer foam here in the medial post section with this clip that runs here, just to kind of firm things up, stop you rolling in too much, and a little bit thicker and firmer outsole rubber on the outside again, just basically to kind of stop that too much roll through. You don't get that on the Ride, you get it on the Guide. I feel like where this differs obviously to the Ride more so is just the weight more than anything, and that tends to be a thing with stability shoes just because they're having to put more elements into the shoe. But the Ride was such a light and nimble shoe that took 2 or 3 runs to break in. But I felt like I could kind of, I know we're talking easy day shoes here, but if I ever wanted to or ever fancied it, you could just go through the gears a little bit more with the Ride a bit better. This very much feels like a one-trick pony, just like the other shoes we're about to talk about, but a little bit less inspiring than the other two. So as much as it's a great shoe, and I still stand by the fact that Saucony definitely are probably my favorite brand in terms of fit, comfort, and everything they're doing, this very much feels kind of like what I would call like an average daily trainer. So there are more exciting ones out there, which we're going to talk about now. So this one's propping things up in third place. And then we move on to second place, 46.6 miles for the Puma Forever Run Nitro. Arguably for me, probably my favorite shoe out of this list. This came into my possession a little bit later. I'm going to give you kind of the pros and cons between this and first place shortly, but this has been a real delight to run in. Now my first gripe with this shoe when I got it was how high that ankle collar was. It's one of those shoes that when you put it on and you start walking around, it kind of pushes up underneath the ankle bone. It was a little bit not very comfortable when you're walking. When you get running, you just don't notice it and it's fine. But when you're walking to start your run, it was just a little bit frustrating. I thought, oh, just drop it by 1 millimeter or 2 and it'll be perfect. But again, a lot of you chimed in on my first review and said, hey, look, that's kind of part and parcel of a stability shoe, kind of locking in that heel, really giving you that secure fit. I get it, I understand. I felt it in a few other shoes. And to be honest with you, that was the only thing that was a downside with this shoe. A massive highlight of the shoe, and the thing that I really love and stands out and really kind of puts this at the top and makes me want to use this more is this midsole foam. It is absolutely fantastic, super soft, super cushioned, exactly what I'm looking for on an easy day shoe. So I think, if I remember rightly, 6, 7, 8 runs in this shoe so far. I said nearly at the 50-mile mark. Although this is half of what I've got from first place, I did pick this up a month and a half later, and I feel like this is definitely something that I'll be gravitating towards a lot more over the coming weeks. Now, as I said, in terms of pros and cons, the weight on this shoe is a little bit on the heavier side, nothing crazy, definitely that whole one-trick pony thing. I feel like this is a recovery shoe. I wouldn't want to ever pick up the pace in it, but it does the job that I want it to on the days that I need it to do it, if that makes sense. So for me, the Puma Forever and Nitro started off at kind of that, there's a couple of things in this shoe that is great, but I'm not sure about, like the ankle collar and stuff. But as I've used it more and it's bedded in more and I'm enjoying it more, it's just becoming something that I'm really, really gravitating towards. So here we go, taking the top spot, the 361 Centauri. 85.7 miles, 11, 12, 13 runs. The stats will be on screen, you'll see it. It's been fan-flipping-tastic. I'm going to give you some pros and cons of this shoe and show you why this thing has got more miles than the other. Well, first of all, let's state the obvious. I got this shoe 6 weeks before the other two. So yeah, it's had more time to soak up some of those miles. And yes, right now I probably am gravitating towards the Puma a little bit more than this, but I've got to say this thing deserves massive, massive credit. Now 361, who are they? They're a brand that not a lot of people talk about, not a lot of people know. Yes, they did send me this shoe. I have under no obligation to say anything, but I do want to give them a massive shout out. This is a really flipping good shoe. When you talk about 361, you either don't know who they are, or, being honest, they've got a carbon plated racing shoe, which a lot of people do know about, but nothing else from any of their other models. And this is a solid daily trainer, taking the shape of the Pegasus. In terms of the silhouette, it's a very, very familiar feeling, similar drop, similar shape, shallower toe box. If you like the Pegasus feel and the way it works, then this is definitely a shoe that I would consider trying out. What makes this better than the Pegasus for me, and I say better, I've only tried up to the 38. I haven't tried the 39 or the 40, probably should get my feet in the 40 and see what they're like, is the midsole foam. Two things actually, the midsole foam and the cushioning and comfort in and around this back padding area here. When you slip your foot in, this is so thick and cushioned, it's just really, really comfy. Everything I want in a nice easy day trainer. The knit upper is very, very nice. It is stretchy, reminds me of the New Balance 1080 version 10 that I used to have. Granted, when it comes to wet weather, you know that this type of upper is going to get heavier, so when it rains, it does feel like the shoe is suddenly twice the original weight, but I haven't had too many wet weather runs in the shoe. But the midsole foam is wonderful, super soft, super cushioned, and very comparable, well, completely different in terms of how the midsoles are made and the compounds and stuff, but very similar softness and cushioning to the Puma Forever Run Nitro. The only major downside with this shoe is the grip on the outsole. As I said, I haven't done too many wet weather runs, but that's for a reason. When I took it out in wet weather, I just don't feel confident in the shoe. It's not like running on an ice rink or anything. It's not too slippery, but it's definitely not as grippy as a lot of the other shoes that I have. And for me, that can be a major issue around here when I'm running up and down the industrial estate in the dark mornings or whatever, or if I'm out wherever I might be on some of the trails. They're fine on there, but the wet tarmac is just not this shoe's friend. But other than that, that's the only downside I can really come up with. Other than that, I've got to say, this has been an absolutely fantastic shoe. So massive props to these two shoes in particular that have really held strong throughout this marathon training cycle moving into the summer. Definitely more miles going in both of them. As I said, leaning a little bit more to the Puma right now, but I'm going to get this thing to 100 miles and beyond. I think it's a really comfortable shoe. Definitely something I consider moving to my walking shoe when I've got over 100 miles. Just really, really comfortable. I think in the height of summer, people will struggle with this shoe just because of the thick knitted upper. If when it gets really, really hot, that upper is not going to be forgiving. Definitely a winter, spring and autumn shoe, but not something for the height of summer. This upper, a lot more breathable, I feel. But as I said, the only irritation I find with this is that ankle collar. When I'm running, it doesn't cause any issues, but overall, the cushioning and the softness of this shoe is absolutely fantastic. So a massive shout out to these two for logging the best easy miles throughout January to April this year. Now I know there's some obvious ones that I've missed. The Clifton 9, the Invincible 3 have come out. I think there's the Ultra Boost Light or whatever the new Ultra Boost is. I'd love to hear from you guys which easy run shoe you think I'm missing out on and what I really should try. Don't say the Invincible. I really don't. I have tried the Invincible version 1. I wasn't a massive fan of it, if I'm honest with you. Just felt a little bit too unstable. I know a lot of you are saying the 3 is a lot more stable. It's just not a shoe I'm particularly like. If it lands on my doorstep, I'll test it and I'd love it, but I don't feel like it's a shoe that I want to spend my money on. Definitely gravitating towards more something like the Clifton 9. Would love to try that one out. But if there are any others out there you feel that I'm missing out on or that you want to share with people down in the comments that have served you really well this year so far, do let everybody know. I'd love to hear from you what your thoughts are on your favourite easy run shoe of 2023 so far. That's it from me today, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please do consider giving it a like, share it with your friends, and of course subscribe to the channel for weekly running content. I'll see you in the next one. Until then.